We're here talking with Jim Johnson, project manager for Star Trek Adventures, published Star Trek author, and Michael Dismuke, freelance writer for Star Trek Adventures and lead writer for Star Trek Adventures. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, thanks for having us back. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very nice to meet you both.
Yeah, good seeing you, Jason and Ryan and Michael. Thanks for being here.
It's nice to see you guys again. When I found out this is happening, I got like super chest fluttery excited. So,
Aww. That's so awesome. I don't, Michael. I don't think, right? I don't think anybody's ever said that to me before. That they're excited. So that's a new one for me. Thanks, I appreciate that. I'll remember that.
Look, I'm a long time, the forever DM and narrator and stuff, and getting the opportunity to talk to people that are in the creative space of this kind of stuff, like this is exactly my jam. And then you can see behind me all the Star Trek. Like this is the perfect bring together of my two favorite things on the planet. So,
oh, that's awesome! I'm so thrilled to be part of it. Thank you.
Likewise.
We've all been diving into the new Federation Klingon War book.
Excellent.
For those that aren't familiar, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So let's see. The Federation Klingon War Tactical Campaign is the new supplement for the Star Trek Adventures RPG, and this is our first opportunity really to go to bring in like the whole war aspect to Star Trek Adventures, where we certainly spent a good chunk of the Gamma Quadrant source book talking about the Dominion War, of course, and how that had an impact on the characters and also on the Alpha Quadrant as a whole, right? But from a character perspective, we really wanted to drill down and say, okay, here's Starfleet officers who are presumably joining Starfleet primarily for the science and the exploration. How are they impacted when they are thrust into a war that they didn't see coming or didn't want to have happen or whatever? So it was an opportunity to take the Federation Klingon War that we see in the first season of Discovery and give players and game masters an opportunity to take that war as a framework and build your own stories off of it. And I think one of the reasons we went with that one as opposed to like the Dominion War is because there is a huge chunk of time, like 6-7 months, where Discovery on the show goes off to the mirror universe, right? And they're completely out of the picture in terms of the war. And that just felt like a great opportunity to throw players into a situation and say, okay, you're on your own. Discovery was kind of like holding down the fort before they disappeared. Now they're gone. How do you carry out this war, without their help? And so it's an opportunity to tell your own stories and to see how things work out in the war. So it was just exciting to put this together and go from there. Michael, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I always like to clarify right off the bat, just like our any other books from the line, that though this setting is the Federation Klingon War that we saw in Discovery, that the book, however, has rules and the campaign fits into any genre you want. So if you did want to throw it into make it the Dominion War, very easy to do with some simple changes, which we could talk about later. But I just like letting people know that, because they're always nervous. So, well, should I get this? I didn't like that show, or that wasn't my favorite time period. It's okay. There's still a lot of great content in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, speaking as the forever DM, like robbing things from other sources and bringing it into your own personal story, that's exactly what it's built to do. So,
constantly,
by all means.
Absolutely, Ryan. Really, the last several books we've done, right, are all basically huge toolkits, right? Just take the tools that you want to use, put them into whatever era or whatever time frame you want, and go have fun. And so, exactly like Michael said, the first third of this book, it's all character options, character talents, character roles, and all that stuff is portable. I mean, it's universal. It's portable to any era of play. It's not solely focused on the Klingon Federation War. The whole tactical overlay component, the whole the mini game that we put in there to give players an opportunity to play as admirals, like 99% of that is universal to Star Trek. You could lift it whole cloth out of the book and drop it right into the temporal Cold War, the Dominion War, the Romulan War, like whatever you want. There's two tables of resources and assets that you can change out and tailor them to different eras of play if you want to. But the entire rule set of that tactical campaign is era agnostic. Even though it happens to be in this book, it's era agnostic.
Yeah. Plus, I play with a bunch of the other freelance writers, and the lead writer for the Federation Klingon War is Al Spader, and we adapt rules from not only STA but homegrown, also Captain's Log and tactical. Like we throw it all together depending on what speed we want our story to move at. And I really feel that the tactical campaign was the final piece we needed for some of our more epic geopolitical stuff we have going on in our game. That was exactly the rule set we needed. So now I kind of feel like we have it totally simplified with Captain's Log all the way to very like galaxy spanning with the Federation Klingon War. So it's, to me, it kind of ties the bow on the whole package.
Yeah. Yeah, it does kind of, doesn't it? I mean, gosh, and that's the advantage of having a game line that's 7.5 years old now, is we've been able to spend so much time developing the game and expanding on it and adding more tools and adding more options that I mean, Captain's Log, like Michael said, that's a streamlined version of the rule set intended for solo play or cooperative play without a game master. And then you can go up into STA itself, and then even up into this tactical campaign. And I mean, even that tactical campaign has only just come out, right, with the pre-order. And the more I do these interviews and articles, and the more I kind of look at it and reread it and play with it, I realize that tactical campaign component, you can scale that up or down. So it can be small, intimate one-on-one ship battles, or it can be like a medium level engagement, or you could blow it out into like a big multi-fleet epic war, I mean, the Dominion War, but then you can even go bigger, right? I know Star Trek doesn't normally do fleet battles on the scale of I don't know, Star Wars maybe, but you could do it. You could totally do it with the way the tactical campaign is designed. Instead of the assets being individual ships, you could make the assets being groups of ships, right? And just make this huge, gigantic, honking, massive multi-fleet thing. And
don't get us start riffing. Don't get us start.
I know, Michael. I know.
We've taken it all the way to taking the Shackleton Expanse campaign guide and moving planets as war objects with the space folding in there. So
that'd be so cool.
Riker showed up with an entire fleet of one ship, as you might recall. So
he sure did.
Yeah, but Michael's been joking that he's gonna get this big tactical map printed out, and he's gonna get little ship models, and he's gonna use those little push things that the military people use.
I'm doing it.
You're doing it.
I'm not. I already told you. Give me that art piece, and I'm printing it out. I'm gonna get all the little ship models, and I'm gonna get it done. And I want to stand there around the table, sipping brandy, moving stuff.
Just get the big battle mat with the
I'm not
Starfield on it.
I'm not kidding. I plan to do this.
That's hilarious.
We've seen your war room, Ryan.
Yeah, it's something. I'll have to share it with you guys off call. But like I said, for the Forever DM in me, I've got my stack of Star Trek Adventures books. My crew that I'm part of SFI with, we play Star Trek Adventures, and I've got a television screen built into a table that we use for maps and stuff.
Sweet.
So.
Nice. I was just talking about that. So how many inches is it?
It is a 37-inch television.
See, Jim, I was saying I don't even need a battle map if I just had a flat screen and I could still move stuff across it even digitally. Oh.
Yeah. There you go.
All you need is a TV and a cut of acrylic that they can put over top of it, so they can move stuff around and not scratch the screen.
Oh wow.
They don't weigh anything anymore, so.
So not to segue, or not to be a digression, but is it basically just a monitor that you're presenting stuff off of from your laptop or something?
Yeah, I've got it's one of my old personal computers that used to be my office computer, and I just hijacked it, put it in my game room, and I just run an HDMI cable from it to the little monitor there, and I've got a second monitor that I do all my stuff on, and then just throw it onto that screen.
Oh, that's so cool.
Okay, and I have another idea. So I have one of those projectors, the Samsung cylinder projectors, and it's very clear. And so, Jim, my other idea was to cast it up on the wall, because that's very S&W now, right? Very Strange New Worlds. And I thought about casting up on the wall and moving stuff around that way with my.
Well, if I say, Michael, let me take you one step further. I have a friend. He has a projector, and it's on his ceiling, and he points it down at their table.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Oh, smart.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Okay. Well, it's on like Donkey Kong now. I think I'm gonna. I actually think I'm gonna have to pack my projector to the D8 Summit. I'm going to the D8 Summit in April, and I want to run this game. So I'm gonna ask Connor to give me a wall space with some dim lighting so we can really play Admirals. That'll be cool.
There you go.
That sounds great.
We're all fantasizing about it. No more questions.
That's awesome. That's just awesome.
Well, my
Modern
thing is like
technology.
what I started thinking about, like I'll admit, is I was thinking about like the boom arms and stuff that like put stuff over table play, like when they're playing poker and things like that. That big gated thing that goes over the top of the table, you just attach that up there, and that's how you can run something live if you're wanting it to be mobile. Because this guy had it built in his house, but
but the thing with if it's on a table, you actually limit how much of the audience could participate and watch.
That part's true, yeah.
Casting on a wall would make it so that you had the main player standing there, like admiral level, and you could actually have people kind of chiming in on. So I'm big into crowd interaction. So I'd be like, okay, guys, what should we do? That'd be actually a fun way to run a game.
Just put it on a dry erase board so like people can write on the stuff that's underneath the because like if you're trying to move things around.
I was thinking if I projected my PowerPoint and I have the entire battle map on the PowerPoint, then I can actually move the ship assets if they're PNG files. I can move the ship assets to the player and then and just play the game the whole time that way. That's how I would do.
There you go. I like that.
Nice.
I like that.
That's awesome.
Well, one of the things that I really like that you guys released recently was the Captain's Log stuff, and I was watching you guys cover a lot of that stuff, and kind of leads into we've got a lot of solo RPG gaming, a lot of online RPG gaming has really flowed into people getting interested in the tabletop RPG space, and with that becoming more and more popular, was it important for you guys to work on and create and get going these solo Star Trek adventure games, and are there any more planned or coming?
Yeah, I mean, we came up with the idea of doing the solo RPG during the pandemic, right? That must have been the fall of 2001, I think. Maybe I don't think it was 2020. It must have been 21. And so it was a long time in development. In fact, we were developing the Captain's Log book at the same time we were developing the Federation Klingon War book, which is why I needed Michael to be the lead writer on Captain's Log and Al Spader to be the lead writer on the tactical campaign, because I had 4 big books all that I was working on all at the same time, and I was like, this is too much. I can't do this all by myself. I need help. So fortunately, they both stepped up and we're able to do a great job on both of those books. But yeah, so during the pandemic, we Modiphius, we collectively saw that there were a handful of solo RPGs out there that were popular, and of course at the time, people were really struggling to get together with their groups in person, and the vibrant online community was really starting to grow by leaps and bounds, and a lot of people, I think, even when it may not have been right at the game launch in 2017, but I think within a couple of years of STA coming out, I remember seeing comments on Facebook and Reddit, the subreddit, and a couple other forums. People were asking, oh, this looks like a cool game. Can I play it solo? And I remember hearing in a lot of different pockets of conversation, can this game be played solo? And it wasn't just for Star Trek; it was for other games too, right? And I was like, we collectively kind of saw there's a subcurrent in the RPG, industry meta that a lot of players are starting to ask for solo games, and we looked around, and at the time, there was not a major IP that we knew of in the RPG space that had a dedicated solo RPG version. And we're like, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see what we can do. Let's try to make it happen. And so, Michael and I put our heads together, and then we brought the writing team on, and they went off and developed it. And we took the 2D20 system and streamlined it and put it together. And, I'll be honest, we had no idea what the reception would be. Because by the time it came out, a handful of other games had done solo RPG versions of their games, but they were more like add-on rules. It was like, okay, if you got the main core book, now you can go buy the little supplement, or you get the little PDF supplement to do it solo play, and then kind of add it on. But I think Captain's Log, don't quote me on this, but it might have been the first dedicated solo RPG of a major IP in its own like dedicated core rule book, as opposed to it being like an add-on to an existing game. Because like Captain's Log is really a separate entity from Star Trek Adventures, even though they share a lot of the same DNA. Michael, what else do you want to add to that? I don't want to monopolize this.
No, I mean, I was going to say that the minute you set me and the team on the project, I right away started looking for another IP that was doing it. I was like, well, does Star Wars do it? Does Marvel have that? I was looking for anything major. Dune, I started looking at those, and no, it wasn't out there. And the ones I was looking at was 5 Parsecs from Home, just fell out of my face. Not Starforged, anyone? Thank you.
Ironforged,
Ironforged.
Yeah,
Iron-Sworn.
Iron-Sworn and Starforged. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was getting backwards. I'm like Starforged and Starsworn. Okay, but anyways, so I was looking at those, and I was kind of jaw dropped that this had not been tailored to an IP like Star Trek. So even though you have these great sci-fi solo RPGs out there, it was kind of easy to rewrite a lot of it because now I could Trek it out. I could Trek no babble. And so with that, being able to tailor it, that was definitely an adventure. But like Jim, I was freaking out. I was like, how is this going to hit the market? And then we were just so surprised how many people out there already were playing solo RPGs and how many people wanted to play an established IP or a solo RPG too. So I'm still surprised at how well it's done. Jim knows the print or not print numbers, but he knows how many print runs it's on and such.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it blew us away. I mean, like I said, we had literally no idea what to expect, and went on pre-order, and the pre-order numbers were like, this is like core rulebook new RPG kind of numbers. Well, this doesn't make any sense. And then we managed to get copies at Gen Con because it went to print, and like we weren't sure the distribution would get it over to from the UK to America in time. But fortunately, it got to Gen Con in time. And we didn't have like huge quantities of the book at Gen Con, but everything we took there sold out, and we were like, what? This is weird. Why are so many people into this solo game? And I'll be honest, I remember, Michael, when we were outlining it, we have when we outline a product, we have to kind of lay out what's the target audience, what's the intentions of the product, like what are we trying to target, so that when we start developing it, we don't get into like scope creep and all of a sudden we've got a 10,000 page document that we don't know what the hell we're doing, because we just throw all the cool ideas into it, right? We try to have a plan and work the plan. And it was a really tall order coming out of that study. It was like, okay, we want to hit solo RPG gamers, we want to hit hardcore Star Trek fans, we want to hit casual Star Trek fans, and we want to hit casual gamers who may not have tried a solo game before but might want to try it. And then we even tried to be intentional about targeting people who've never played an RPG before but might want to try it out. And even I don't think we intentionally planned to target like fan fiction writers or fiction writers, but there's a natural connection point between solo RPGs and creative writing. Right. And so we ended up dropping in some advice on that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I know I did make a big push for trying to, initially I made a big push for it being, become a storyteller, and then had a conversation. I think it was with Jim and Nathan Dowdell, and Nathan reminded me, he says, yeah, but people want to play a game. Otherwise you could just go write stories, or you could just play a game, but RPG is about game story matched up. So he kind of knocked me back into the center. But I definitely, you'll see my influence about writing in there. Like there's a lot of explanation about how to write the hero's journey, things that make a story good, how to use conflict and cutscenes. So we did that, but then I had to make sure to format it into, okay, how does that translate into game mechanics?
The one thing that I love about that game is, even though it's Captain's Log, you don't have to play as a captain. You can be a security officer, you can be a science officer, anything.
You don't have to be an officer. You don't
have to be an officer. You can be a cadet.
You could be a Klingon. You could be a bounty hunter. You could be a Fenris Ranger. You could really people. I'm watching people play it in very interesting ways.
Something lower decks.
Lower decks. Yeah, you can do lower decks. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, ended up being a lower decks just from the rolls.
Yeah.
Funny. Yeah, but it's funny, you know, we put I think Captain's Log came at a really good time, right? Because we were 6 years into the life of the line, and we had so many, you know, character options and species options and options that you can play with, that Captain's Log was a really good opportunity to kind of bring that all together and do in kind of a fresh format. So now, you know, you can pick up Captain's Log, and I mean, even though that's the name of the game, like you were saying, you could play literally any character that you see in the Star Trek universe, from Enterprise all the way out to the 32nd century. You can do that. You want to play an Orion mercenary? Yeah, play an admiral. If you want to play a member of the Emerald Chain, you can do it, because we put, like, I don't know, Michael, what did we put, like 60 species options in the book, from you know, Enterprise all the way up to 32nd century. So you want to play a Pakled, you want to play an Orion, you want to play a Horta. I think Horta's got into Captain's Log before they're not even in Star Trek Adventures yet.
Even Dupplers, where we got Dupplers first, also, and Soong type androids, I think, was the first time it was mentioned there, that came out in another product as something you could roll up. But yeah, I mean, my thing is, I wish we could have there was more room for more roll tables, because I'm all about probability matrices. I mean, I can go on for days with those, and I hope people, which is mentioned in the book, don't get constrained to just what we were able to do because of page count there, but go wild with any probability matrix you draw. And if you watch our show, Continuing Conversation with me and Jim, you'll see us use Jane Austen roll tables, or drama with Admiral roll tables that we just couldn't fit in there. So I threw into Continuing Missions, the blog, and we're cracking up at how fun a Jane Austen roll table can make a Star Trek game, or one that's coming out, that just came out on Friday. Ancient Egyptian historical religious traditions was a roll table we worked up and had a grand adventure with.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we could have easily spent 1,000 pages on just like random tables, and it was like, we can't possibly sell a 1,000-page book of just random tables, right? We'd have to dole it out, or we'd have to do it all online or something, like, I don't know, some sort of a app or something, but I don't know what that even looks like. But you know, it's been very exciting to see how many people have responded to it. And I mean, for me personally, and like Michael, I know you agree with this, what really has gratified me the most is the people who've been thoughtful enough to take the time to post online and say, you know what, I really love Star Trek. I thought I had some creativity, but I didn't know how to get it out. Like, I didn't know how to express that creativity, right? I wanted to write, or I wanted to tell stories, but I didn't have the tool set. I didn't have the knowledge how to pull it together. And they got Captain's Log, and the light bulb went off. And then they were able to go tell stories, and now they're telling stories. And not only are they telling stories that they wanted to tell, but they're sharing them, right? They're putting them on blogs, or they're doing a Twitch channel, or they're doing a YouTube channel or something. And I'm so excited, because it's like, wow, we helped unlock that creativity in them, and gave them the power, you know, gave them the power that they could go tell the stories they want to tell. And then for me, it's totally self-serving, because I love reading Star Trek stories, no matter who writes them. And so now I'm enabling them to write more stories that I can go read, right? So it's just a nice little circle of life there.
Well, with in our tactical group that we have some creative people who have, because of this solo game, they put out their own solo missions, their Captain's Log. They share them with us for us to read.
Can you ask them to put them up? Can you ask them to put them up at Continuing Missions? Email me, and I'll put them up on Continuing Missions for them too.
Yeah, Michael, I don't want to overwhelm you, but like, even people outside of tactical, like, it's very real. I come across so many solo mission stories consistently with people I didn't even know were in the tabletop RPG realm doing this.
I try to get them.
Hearing that,
you know, so far we've listed on Continuing Missions. Someone did a screenplay. They do screenplays off their Captain's Log. Another person does an amazing audio drama using STO art with their Captain's Log. Jim mentioned already the YouTubers who are doing it. People are posting, you know, just their stories, but I love to have it all up there. And the reason why is because as a longtime fan, I kind of hated it that it was just me and my friends who saw the stuff. And then where was it being immortalized? Continuing missions immortalizes this all, so that years later, if you forgot where you put the stuff, go look on continuing missions and where you put it there. I wish I had that. I did keep all my writing for my RPGs over 30 years, but I know a lot of people did not. And so that's really the goal. Is it's all about fan worship at continuing missions. So if you know people who just want a couple of more eyeballs on it, we love storing it there for you. It's kind of the archive for Star Trek Adventures.
Nice.
But Ryan, man, you just made my week or my month even by saying that. What was your quote? That there were
not even people inside the tabletop RPG realm. I wasn't aware they were into anything like it. Finding out, and like they came to it because of Star Trek, and then just it bled into them posting a big post. I'll have to go talk to. There's 2 people in mind that I saw on Facebook posting about it. So like it's been really cool to watch. Because I'll admit, like I have my big table of people, so it wasn't really my thing. And then when I was like, wait a minute, this thing is more, and I went and immediately bought one, and I was like, okay, this is actually something. This is exciting.
That makes me so happy to hear. I'm almost crying because I'm so happy. Michael, I would say, like, man, that's mission accomplished, right? I mean, we did what we sought out to do beyond our expectations. And I think that's what surprises me most, Ryan, and everybody else, is it's been out for 8 months now, 7 months, 8 months now, and we're still seeing Twitches and YouTube channels and reviews and comments and stuff out there. Like the little press engine is just kind of running by itself now. And I mean, we're still doing ads and stuff, but it's got a life of its own now, and that's so exciting to see because we had no idea.
Yeah, and where it touches me the most is we had the pleasure of having Heather Antos on our show. We're recording this, I know, on February 17th, and she will be on our show the upcoming Friday, which is the 23rd. So February 23rd, and she was into RPGs for years. And for those who don't know who Heather Antos is, she's the lead editor for IDW's Star Trek series. She's really the one who brought Colin Wilson, Jackson Lansing, Jody Hauser into the Star Trek realm of writing those, and got that team together, plus other names I'm forgetting. But on the show, she mentioned that she already was into RPG. She was already into writing. We talked to Jackson and Colin, who've been on our show. Same thing. They write for RPG, and they got their chops writing. So I was really hoping that this Captain's Log would get people into chops of how to tell stories, how to construct them. If they want to, go ahead and write them. And you never know where it's going to lead. Both Jackson, Colin, Jody, Eric Campbell, Heather Antos, they played with gaming groups that now are creatives in the industry, be it Star Wars, Marvel, DC, or Star Trek. So that's my dream, is just start writing people. And maybe this book is the catalyst to get you that leap and into that habit, and hope to see you named on a credit page somewhere, really. So that's my encouragement to people: just write.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll add to that, Michael. Well, first of all, with Star Trek, there are a number of Star Trek novelists, writers, etc., who got their start playing RPGs, me included. Like I played RPGs when I was a kid for a long time, and that's where I started to learn how stories come together. Like how does the story work? Like, you start learning that, and character development and stuff. And I am absolutely not the only writer who does it. Like, I went to a couple of SIPLA conventions ages ago, and like there are a lot of fantasy and science fiction writers who played D&D, who played Star Frontiers, who played Gamma World, when they were kids or young adults or whatever. And all of that helped them learn the basics of story structure and character structure and world building, especially world building. And that just translates straight into fiction writing or screenplays or teleplays or comic book strips, like whatever you're doing. It's all writing. It's all writing. It's all creative. It's all writing. So, if you're an RPGer and you're not sure where your life's going to go, but you got this creative bent, you can absolutely just jump right into any number of different types of writing, and all these are transferable skills. If we want to get HR, professional development a little bit, it's all transferable skills. So, but yes, tons of writers have gotten their chops started in RPGs, and if Captain's Log can do a little tiny bit to help that ramp up a little bit, I'm 100% for it.
One of my favorite things I've watched some people do with it is like kind of turn them into little holodeck stories. and like Dixon Hill-esque type things. I like the gamut that the stories can run that I've seen from it. So
yeah, that is the thing, and I know we've talked about this a lot on a lot of different shows and stuff, but like that's probably, I mean, there's so much to love about Star Trek, but the fact that, like, as far as I can tell, every single genre of story that could possibly be told can be told within a Star Trek framework, right? I mean, shoot, Strange New Worlds just showed us last season that you can put a musical and it works, right? Whether you like it or not, I thought
whether
it worked.
you like it or not, yeah.
I thought it was fantastic, especially the way they wove in all the different character stories that were happening in that season into the music. It was just astounding. So like literally, like if your group likes murder mysteries, thrillers, noir thrillers, cyberpunk, wartime stories, romance, whatever, you can make it work in Star Trek. And I think that's one of the things that's really exciting about Captain's Log, right? Is that it just encourages that and says, sure, any story you can possibly imagine in any environment you can possibly imagine. There's no budget, so go crazy, do literally anything you want. And that is super, super empowering, I think.
So my question is, the tactical campaign booklet, it ships out in around the end of March. We know that the series finale starts April 4th. Was it important to get this book out before the final season of Discovery ends?
I wish I could say it was intentional, but no, absolutely not. This this tactical campaign book has been in development since the fall of 21. So it's had a very, very long lifespan in terms of development, and gosh, there was a point last year where it was just through a lot of scheduling issues and a lot of stuff going on, because of course Modiphius is a big company, a big growing company, and we have a lot of product coming out from all kinds of different lines, right? We got Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Dune and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And it was just really tricky to put the finishing touches on this book in a timely fashion. So we kept working on it, and finally it got done. And we didn't even know when Discovery season 5 was going to come out, right? Until literally just the Super Bowl, right? I think the Super Bowl is when they announced April 4th.
Announced it, yeah.
I think we knew it was coming sometime this year, but we didn't know when, right? And in fact, our primary point of contact at Viacom CBS, Paramount, they weren't sure when the series was actually going to pop out until the production teams, and the marketing teams made the call to when it was what actual date it was going to be, right? So literally, we didn't know when Discovery season 5 was going to hit until everybody else did, and we'd already got the schedule for this book out. Like we were planning the pre-order for early February, and then the release of it would be end of March, early April, whenever distribution gets the book over here. So it was just lucky timing, I think, that Discovery season 5 will start right about the time this book hits distribution, right? And I guess that's just lucky. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna necessarily help the book. I mean, it certainly can't hurt, because this book is solely focused on. I mean, it's not solely focused. It's primarily focused on the war, which is season 1.
Season 1,
and
yeah.
As we know with Discovery, season 3, 4, and 5 are way beyond what was happening in season 1. Right? It's a whole different universe. I mean, they're 950 years in the future.
Right.
Spoiler warning. Apologies if you haven't watched it yet, but they're in a whole different time frame now, right? That has absolutely nothing to do with the Federation Klingon War, except, and I think Al Spader will probably be happy to tell me, or happy to that I say this, is that one of the new optional rule systems we put into the book is called Scars. And that is like, how is your character impacted by like drama and trauma and stresses of either wartime stuff or just traumatic things happening to them. And there's a way to suppress values and a way to change your character in a way that they have these scars or whether they're physical or mental or emotional or whatever. And I mean, absolutely, that kind of stuff impacts the characters, whether they're in the 23rd century or the 32nd century, right? Like, even though those characters went out of this time frame into a completely different time frame, they took all that baggage with them, right? Because they're human or near human or whatever, and that trauma doesn't go away necessarily. You got to work through it. And like characters like, I mean, obviously Culber had plenty of trauma, and Stamets and Burnham and everybody else had a lot of trauma going on. In fact, I think we see that in season 3. It's been a while since I've watched the later series. I know Detmer had a couple episodes where she had a lot of
I think that was season 3.
Yeah, either some PTSD or just some other stuff going on, and that perfectly encapsulates the SCAR rules that we ended up putting in. And in fact, I think, and again, this was another lucky, unintended lucky thing happening, is that the book was finished in development and we were in layout when season 2 of Strange New Worlds came out, and we saw all those episodes about what was happening to Dr. M'Benga and Chapel during the war, right? So we saw all their backstory about how the war was impacting them. And I remember me and Al were talking on chat. We were like, "Holy cow, this is awesome!" Because everything that's happening in Strange New Worlds season 2 is in our book, right? So when this book finally comes out, players are going to be like, "Oh wow, I can do that." And like, we would like to say we planned it, but we totally didn't. We didn't. It's just the way the life cycle of a book works out, along with the production cycles of episodes and stuff. So I'll just take it as lucky timing. Michael, I apologize. I'm monopolizing this again. So
no. You know the history. I don't know it. Yeah. I always do crack up with Jim though, because it's been very fortunate, the timing of all of these books, even Captain's Log coming out right when Gen Con, like certain the timing for these releases. It's there are many cues looking out for Jim, I think.
I don't know. It's just lucky, I guess. I mean, we do not have the luxury to be at a high enough up the food train. We're not read into the scripts. We don't get to see the scripts ahead of time. We're just as surprised as anybody else is when the shows actually come on air and watch them. And then, of course, we watch the episodes and then we're frantically taking notes, like how can we incorporate that into our next book or whatever? Or like, how can we apply that? How can we do like a quick blog post that ties in that episode into one of the products we already have out or something? So we're always reacting to that as opposed to being, proactive. And that's okay. Cause like I know a friend of mine, Dayton Ward, he does a lot of consulting work for CBS and Viacom, and he gets to read all the scripts ahead of time, right? Although maybe that's a secret and I shouldn't say that. So apologies, Dayton. But I've talked to him and I said, I don't know if I would want that. Like I kind of like being surprised. It'd be just a whole different world to like kind of know what's coming as opposed to like being surprised when it happens. So I'd have to think about that as to like whether I even want to read the scripts, ahead of time.
I think you'd like the paycheck at least.
I mean,
to go and read the script. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's like, I feel the same way, but I'm like, what? You're paying me to do what?
Yeah, seriously.
The new book, you're introducing 6 new species. Can you both tell us your favorite of these new species and why?
Michael, why don't you go first?
I hope I pronounce it right. Ariolo. That right there. I mean, if anyone knows me, the Shackled Expanse had these other centaur-like creatures called Kofari, which I think were created by
Scott Pearson.
Scott Pearson created them. And so now when I saw these, which of course are pulled straight from the movie era, and even Lower Decks had some shots of them, I was just like, who are these people? I have got to get them on my ship as a security officer. It was just the coolest thing. So that's my favorite.
Oh man, which one are my favorites? I think I want to say the Aenar because Hemmer is such a cool character. But I have to admit, I think the Arcadians are my favorites, and only because they are a deep cut from the motion pictures, right? So obviously Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4, especially those two, there's a couple of scenes in the Federation Council where you see all these really neat alien species in the background in the rows of the representatives of the Federation, and it's all different makeup jobs and all prosthetics and stuff, but they look cool and you're like, ooh, what's that species? And I remember FASA, the RPG, when they had the RPG back in the late 80s, early 90s, they actually made an effort to kind of like describe those alien species and stat them out, and they had line drawing artwork in their products. And as a young gamer, I was like, oh, that's really cool because you can like use those characters. And then when I got into Star Trek Adventures, we all collectively were like, we want to add more of those deep cuts, and we want to bring in some of those species that you kind of see on the periphery that just look neat. So I'm just glad that we were able, like 5 of the 6 species in this book are deep cuts right out of the motion picture era, in the movie era, and it's just neat. But I think the Arcadians are so cool because on screen they look like these gigantic China doll heads, right? The big porcelain, China doll heads. I was like, oh man, that's just a really cool species. I wonder what their story is, right? So I wanted to, try to make sure that we get them in there. And I think, Michael, I don't know if you weren't that directly involved in this particular book, but I know that the writers and I, when we were outlining it, we had like a list of 12 or 13 species that we thought would be worth including. And then we had to cut that down to 6 because there's only so many pages that we could fit. And we ended up going with the 6 that we got. And I was gratified to see that the Arcadians made the cut. Of course, I had a little bit of pull on that, but I tried to make it, diplomatic.
Don't worry, I did squeeze in the Cancri at least in one of the missions. So we got.
There you go.
I mean, it should you can see a base stat for them. We don't give them the exact state,
Right.
but you count them as number 7.
There you go.
Yeah.
Last question that I have is, and I can understand if you can't, but can you tease us with any future Star Trek adventure projects that you may have planning in the future?
Yeah, I can't really tease you too much, but like I always tell the fans online, man, save your latinum. there's a lot of cool stuff coming. So for the I don't know what sparked this, but like somebody posted on the subreddit a few weeks ago, like, is Star Trek Adventures still an active game line or whatever? And I'm like, where have you been? Go sign up for the newsletter, man.
Rude.
Like, we've been releasing like almost every month. We release a new standalone adventure or a mission brief pack for free, and we've been doing steady print releases too. And like literally, I think a week after they posted that question, like the Federation Klingon War book went on pre-order. So like, yep, we're still here, still doing our thing, and lots more stuff to come. A mix of digital products and print products. So just stay tuned is the best I can say right now.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Kind of in that vein, like I said, not to go too deep, and obviously can't spoil anything if you're not actively working on it. But is there any like pie in the sky project? Like, man, if we could get to that, like that would be the next big thing, even as a Star Trek fan or as a game designer. Like anything you've got like kind of in the corner of your eyes, like I'll get to you one day.
Oh man, there's so much stuff. I think I've probably told this story before, but I'll tell you all. When I got involved in the game in 2016. I came on board in the end of May. It must have been like May 28th or something, 2016. And by that point, they already had the core rule book in pretty good shape, right? They were doing playtesting on it. It was in like an alpha beta draft or something. And they got me involved. I did some writing on the core book. I didn't have to do a lot of the development work on the rules, of course, because Nathan and the rest of the development team had already done the vast majority of the heavy lifting. So we were doing mostly the lore and the other bits that went into the core book. And then I rapidly got involved in editing the first adventure compendium. And then, we went on from there. But I think once I saw the playtest document and I saw how good the system was at bringing Star Trek to the game table, and then we started working on the adventure book. I actually remember this is so dumb, but I'll tell you anyway. I took myself to a local Panera Bread, right, with my little Alpha Smart Neo, which I've been using for almost 20 years now to write all my first drafts. And I sat down with that Alpha Smart Neo, and I spent probably an hour, eating a bread and soup or a salad, whatever was at Panera. And I came up with a wish list of all the different Star Trek stuff that me as a game master and a Star Trek RPG player wanted to see at my game table. Like all the different stuff that I wanted to see from Decipher and Last Unicorn Games and FASA that either never came out or came out but was ready to be updated to the new generation or whatever. And there must have been, I haven't looked at the list in a while, but there must have been like 130 or 140 different discrete products on that thing that I thought I would like to see. And just over time, just through happy circumstance and hard work, I've become the project manager for this thing, and now I'm steadily checking stuff off that list one after another as the opportunity presents itself. And there's still stuff on that list that we have not gotten to yet, and that we've only really kind of touched on in some of our products that I would love to get to. And of all of them, I think the big idea I have that I don't think is ever going to be feasible, but what I would love to do is like big chunky, either one big chunky or a whole bunch of like smaller books that take the entire franchise from the beginning of Enterprise all the way out to the 32nd century, and go into a lot of detail on every era of play, and with an RPG lens, like both the RPG lens on it,
like a source book lens,
but like also a source book lens, right? Because I look at all the fantastic nonfiction, and I've got a lot of it on my shelves above me that you can't see. All the great nonfiction Star Trek references that have come out over the decades, and none of them have been able to put the totality of the franchise together, string it together from A to Z to show the continuity, and then add that RPG lens on top of it. Because like I've long believed, and I know we've talked about this too, that the RPG has to do some heavy lifting in ways that other nonfiction Star Trek books don't have to, because as gamers and as players and as game masters, we need to know the backstory, right? We need to know how the dots connect from Enterprise to the beginning of Discovery to Strange New Worlds to the original series, because like when we're building characters and we're creating characters, we want to know what that backstory is, and we want it to make sense, right? We want to understand how did we get from Enterprise to the first season of Discovery? Like, how did that whole look and feel thing change? How did the ship designs change? How did what's the geopolitical situation look like with the Romulan War leading into the Klingon War? Like all that interstitial stuff that canon doesn't have time to look at because they're focused on their own stories. Like what is all that? How does that all connect, right? And so as RPG developers and designers, we get that opportunity in our books, and we've done it in a lot of our books, and hopefully we'll continue to do it in more of our books. Is like we connect the dots, like okay, and we're not creating new stuff, right? We're not trying to create stuff out of whole cloth, but what we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, this happened here, and this happened here, and this happened here. So here's a logical theoretical progression of how that probably all came together, and we're trying to do it in such a way that we are enabling game masters and players to then use that as a baseline and go tell their own cool stories without us saying, here's what happened, and we're just going to spoon feed it to you and tell you what happened. And that's the guardrails that you have to work with right now, right? So we're trying to give everybody like a common baseline based on canon, with a little bit of secondary canon sprinkled in, because we do have the opportunity to drop in Easter eggs from the novels, the comic books, the video games, STO, timelines. Like we have great relationships with all the different licensees. But like the collective Star Trek Adventures team is so knowledgeable about the breadth of Star Trek storytelling, not just from the games, but from the novels. And there's just been so much Star Trek over 60 years, right? And we get to drop in little Easter eggs when we can, because the licensor, like our Paramount review team, they love it. They love seeing these little references. And sometimes they'll see a reference and they're like, what's that from? And we'll say, oh, that was from issue bloody blah of a Gold Key comic, and they're like, oh, okay, that's a nice little deep cut, right? And so, but what that does then is it gives us an opportunity to like present this whole tapestry, but it's still rooted in canon, so that a group can go, okay, well, we're going to take that and then we're going to go off running in this direction. So anyway, long-winded story. I would love to do like a big honking massive like box set of books from 22nd century all the way out, and just do a complete comprehensive thing. It's not cost effective, but it's absolutely my pie in the sky dream to do something like that. Michael, what's your big dream?
Well, I say this every time someone asks me, because remember, I'm just a freelance writer. People always mistake me like I work for Modiphius. I'm only a freelance writer. I can all I can report is I can say that everything I've wished has come true, or I've been able to, or I know is currently being worked on, and that's all I can say. Like for instance, the one I had been dying to do was the Khitomer Accords. I wanted to do something on the Khitomer Accords. So we had the mission brief come out recently. With once the Khitomer Accords were signed, the Klingons didn't all take a bow, like, oh, let's go walking into this. I knew it created civil war, and I'm big into Dune right now too. So I just always picture the Klingon houses like the houses of Dune. So I knew it created this vying for power, as if now Kronos was Arrakis kind of going on. So fortunately, I had been begging Jim about that literally for, I think, like 2 years ago. I may have submitted the idea, and then last year submitted the actual. I pitched it and then finally wrote it. But that's 2 years in the making, where I've been wanting to really dig deep into post-Khitomer Accord Klingon politics. So I know, and there's a bunch of other juicy stuff coming out like that I just can't talk about.
Yeah. Although Michael, you do put it into really good perspective, where as much stuff as I have on my wish list, I feel so satisfied at everything that we've done up to this point. Like if I woke up on Monday morning and we get an email from Paramount saying, really unfortunate, but we're going to pull the license and STA is done, or Modiphius says, hey, you know what, we're gonna stop and we're just not gonna do it anymore. I would obviously be sad, right, for that to happen, but I would look at the body of work that we were leaving behind, and I'd say, yeah, we did some really cool stuff, and especially, I mean, I think, to be honest with you, I think Captain's Log is the culmination of these last 7.5, 8 years, where because, especially like I was saying earlier, because of the response and the fact that casual gamers or people who weren't even gamers are checking it out and then using it to tell stories. Like, I mean, that's, I can't put a value on that. Like, that is like such a honor as an editor and an acquisitions editor, but also a fellow writer, to be able to give somebody the power to unlock their creativity and go tell stories. Like, how do you beat that?
Yeah, it's definitely got to be satisfying for you guys. Absolutely.
And I would share in the assessment, honestly, Jim. Like, I'm not saying that I hope that it ends anytime soon, but like, even with the body of work as it stands, it's been incredible. And it's honestly, it's shocking to believe it's already been, what'd you say, 7-8 years. And like, my goodness, I have enjoyed every product that's come out. I can't claim to have bought every single one of them, but I have perused and looked at most of it, if not all, and own a fair bit of it. So you guys have been rocking it. Such a joy to finally get to speak to you as well.
Absolutely.
I'm very grateful to hear that, and trust me, like, I don't want to get any rumors started. Like, we're not going anywhere. We still got plenty of stuff in the pipeline. So like don't like, I know sometimes I talk to Al and Michael, and behind the scenes on chat and stuff, and they're like, well, what's going on? And it's like, no, we're fine. Things are chugging along here. We're good, but
just pontificating.
That was just a hypothetical.
But I mean certainly, 8 years is a long time to work at any job, right? Or to work for any single company. And there's been times where I've been burned out, or I've just been really, really tired. And somehow, I mean, especially when I have conversations with you all like this, or Michael and Al, you may not realize it, but you unintentionally lift me up and help me keep me going. But even just the fan response is enough to be like, oh yeah, this is bigger than any of us, right? This is the Star Trek family embracing it and having fun. So
I'm hoping we break some records with this RPG too, and the fans, they don't understand how, like, for me, both being a fan and a writer, probably more fan than writer for sure. I'm pretty sure that the power is literally in the fans to keep the RPG alive too. So I know some, it's kind of like if we have a favorite artist, you go support them every time they're in town. You can listen to them. You maybe go to their restaurant, eat their food. You go see their exhibitions. And RPG is literature, and an art form is the same thing. So we really gotta, if you love it, tell one person about it, introduce them to the game, and because as I said many times, the saddest thing that ever happened to me was when Marvel TSR stopped producing new stuff. That broke my heart, and it took a little wind out of my sails. I still played it for 20 years after production, but it still took a little wind out of my sails, and I'm hoping that day never comes. I know that's rare. No other RPG probably could say that except the big one. But I'm hoping that the fans keep it alive. And keep
Michael, going. Just to add to that statement, if there's any fandom on the face of planet Earth that understands that more, it's Star Trek fans.
Absolutely.
The series continues on the back of fan desire.
That's right.
There's a reason Enterprise ended in 2005, and it took a while, but there was enough fan desire to bring it back. There was enough letter writing campaign to bring back original series. So.
Well, look how quickly Prodigy got resurrected. That was record time fan response too. So now with the advent of the internet and streaming, I'm hoping that even I felt like this year that we were getting to a tipping point with Star Trek Adventures. I was really feeling that, and I'm hoping that that's true, and I'm hoping that it kind of goes viral at this point where it just spreads. Now that literally there's a book for every show. There's a book that covers every show that people can now find the game that they want, to really target them.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, I mean, you're right. I mean, I think most of us probably remember when Enterprise was canceled, right? There was a lull, right? There was a period of like no Star Trek, and it was like, oh, this is I don't want to say it was the dark ages, but man, it was bleak, because it was like, sure, there were new novels coming out, and there was the occasional new comic book or something, the Decipher had lost, or I mean, Decipher had collapsed, and nobody had the RPG license. There were no new movies, there were no new TV series. It's like, oh, Star Trek is just kind of like in a valley now. Like sometimes it's in a peak. Like, I mean, the late 80s, early 90s was absolutely a peak, right? I mean, we had Next Gen, DS9, and then Voyager, and the movies. And it was like there was a convention every weekend, depending on where you lived in the country, right? Like, I mean, I know I'm here in the Northern Virginia area. There was absolutely a convention every week that I could have driven to, whether it was in the DC metro area or like Pennsylvania or something. I could drive to, if I wanted to, I could go to one every weekend. And that's just not going to happen again, because we just didn't have that. We don't have the volume of shows happening at the same time. But yeah, that 2004, 2005, when Enterprise was canceled, it was like, oh man, it's dark, it's bleak. And then finally the JJ verse movies came out, and that really sparked a new generation to be kind of curious about Star Trek. And then they brought out Discovery, and like Discovery just blew the doors off of it, because you're introducing Star Trek to a whole new generation of fans with some fresh, different storytelling. That, in fact, my partner and I just finished rewatching the first season of Discovery, and I and this is a digression, I know, but I appreciate. Actually, no, no, it doesn't. It's not a digression. It ties right into the book, doesn't it? Right? Because we're talking about the Federation Klingon War. What really surprised me and impressed me about Discovery season 1 is how real the characters were in interacting with each other, like the real hard conversations that they were having with each other, the real mature storylines they were having. I think it hit just right once because right after season 1 and season 2, I think that's when the pandemic hit, right? So it was like some really mature, thoughtful storytelling, and characters talking to each other in ways that I don't think you saw as much on the network versions of Star Trek, because it was just different, right? So I think that's one of the things I really appreciated about it. Is like, wow, these characters are going to some really hard places, and they're working together and working through it. And I don't know. I almost wonder if certain parts of the fan base just like weren't ready for that, right? They were expecting more of the traditional Star Trek kind of stuff. And, I don't know. We could spend all night on a whole nother episode dissecting what worked and what didn't. But
don't threaten me with a good time.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, it's like we were talking, before we started recording. It's like Discovery and those JJ era movies that brought on a younger generation.
Yeah.
That's their introduction to Star Trek. Where like I was saying earlier, mine was TOS or TAS rather, before I saw TOS.
Yeah.
This younger generation is Discovery.
This is my Beyond poster right here. It's like I'm a big fan of them. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right, Jason. I remember. I mean, because I'm old, right? I remember when Next Generation first came out.
Me too.
In 1987, and of course, in 1987 we didn't have an internet.
Right.
It didn't exist, and so the only way we were interacting with other fans was either our little local communities, or if we went to a convention, right? We would talk to conventions. And I remember there were a lot of older fans, like who grew up with the original series, that were really angry. Yeah. And they were pooping on Next Gen all over the place, saying, "Oh, they want to be the new Kirk. They want to be the new Spock. This show will never go anywhere. It's a bunch of crap. How dare they replace the Enterprise? Blah blah blah." And so, I guess I hate to say it, but Star Trek fans have like this tradition of hate for the new thing that's coming.
Yes, they do. Yes,
they don't like the new thing, and then as the next new thing comes in, the old one becomes canon, and we've got to cling to it tightly.
Yeah.
Like, how
All
can
too
you?
familiar.
Yeah, how can you love Strange New Worlds and hate Discovery? Like all the DNA of Strange New Worlds is right out of Discovery, right? I mean, especially watch season 2 because it's all there. Like you got Pike, Una, and Spock, and they carried that right into Strange New Worlds. And one thing I haven't done research on that I really should at some point. Maybe somebody can help me understand this, but like I'm willing to bet that a lot of the production people who were involved in the first couple of seasons of Discovery, I'm wondering how many of them went on to work on Strange New Worlds and take that like 3 to 5 years of development experience that they got on Discovery and applied it to Strange New Worlds, because Strange New Worlds out the gate was so good, like so good, like across the board, like the music, the design, the effects, the acting, the writing, everything was, they hit the ground running so well that I really want to know like the behind the scenes, like how many people were involved in the first couple seasons of Discovery and then transitioned all that knowledge into Strange New World. I'd be fascinated to hear about that at some point. But you can't love Strange New World, and this is my opinion. You can't love Strange New Worlds and not love Discovery. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I know people were gonna love Strange New Worlds because they wanted that episodic type feel again. And Discovery didn't really give that to them. But you know that, and there's so much more about Discovery that people just love to, like you said, poop on. But it's just but you're right, you can't love Strange New Worlds without liking Discovery. You know, so I totally agree with that.
And not to go preaching to the choir here, right? But like I read posts because like we spend a lot of time on social media, right, for the game and then for just Star Trek in general, trying to get the vibe of what people are excited about or not excited about. And like I'll see a lot of people post stuff and they'll say, oh gosh, I hate Discovery, or I hate Lower Decks, or I hate Boimler, or I hate Mariner, or I hate whatever. But just for the fact that they're saying I hate X, it's like, wait a minute, this is Star Trek. How can you hate? Like hate's not in the vocabulary of Star Trek, right?
Exactly.
Like when you think about IDIC, right? Infinite diversity, infinite combinations. Like there's no hate. There's no hate in there. So like either you're, I mean, I'll stop there because I don't want to assume anything, but that's my wonderment is like, how do you come into Star Trek and hate something about it? You can dislike it, certainly. I mean, there's Star Trek. There's a Star Trek for everybody at this point,
right?
Exactly.
And it's totally okay to not like something, but to be so vocal to say that you hate it, like, really? In this day and age, in this economy, in this world, that's what you're going to hate on? Okay, whatever.
Exactly.
And Jim, more to your point, like especially like active Star Trek right now, there is a active running show for every kind of television viewer. You've got long form, you've got episodic, you've got cartoons and silly, you've got action cartoon. Like it's all here right now. And
we
if
even get a
we wanna-
movie soon.
Exactly. Like that's my thing. Is like I joined Starfleet during the dearth that you were referencing, the 05 to the Kelvinverse movies. And it was rough out here for a Star Trek fan. And now it's like I feel so energized and so recharged from all the Trek. And then Star Trek Adventures comes out. Thank you. This is everything I've ever wanted.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I think a lot of, I mean, partly because the game is 8 years old now, I think some folks may not appreciate and realize that like the game came out before Discovery. Even like, I mean, I think we knew it was coming because I don't think it premiered until the fall of 2017. Yeah. So the game came out at Gen Con, and then Discovery came out. And it was like, oh man, we're long in the tooth here. The game's been around so long. We predate Discovery, which is hard to imagine because I feel like Discovery's been around for a long time. But it's only been 7-8 years or something, which is crazy to think of. But it's just fascinating.
Kind of as we come up on the hour, like I just genuinely, me personally, thank you guys for the work you guys put in for this game.
Absolutely.
And just kind of speaking for tabletop RPGs in general, thank you for bringing something more, like something new, refreshing, and thank you for putting Star Trek in it because it needs it and Star Trek needs it. So thank you all very much.
We have a ball. We're living the fan dream here.
Yeah. I mean, and seriously, I would not still be doing this if it wasn't for the fans. Like I'm a super fan. I mean, you can hear the passion. Like I'm a super Star Trek fan, and the only reason, because unfortunately we still live in a capitalistic society, right? So like at the end of the day, if the game's not making any money, then we wouldn't do it, right? And so clearly the fans have stepped up. The fans have been there. They've been loyal from day one. They're so supportive of each other, which is the most amazing thing to me. Like that shows me the health of the game line, right? When your players are actively taking it upon themselves to help other players and to answer questions and to create content and put it on fan sites, independent of whatever the company's doing. That's like, oh yeah, this is really cool. And I've said this before, right? But like when a new fan will post a question on one of the many social media channels, and like the fans jump in to answer those questions before me or Nathan or Michael or Al can get to it, and we're like, this question's been answered. I don't have to do anything.
It's like the singer holding the microphone to the crowd. It's like, oh yeah, please just sing my song to me.
It's nice. Exactly. We can actually take vacations and the social media stays alive. I love it.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, I'll just go back to work then. But like I said at the beginning, I've got a wish list because I'm a gamer. I'm almost a forever GM. I've been able to play a little bit on here and there, and Michael's been so generous that we get to play the Captain's Log every now and then. When we have space in our schedule, we'll drop in a Captain's Log episode in our podcast. And it's just fun. It's just fun to just sit there and play. So I get to scratch that itch a little bit, even though I'm mostly almost forever game master. But because I'm a hardcore Star Trek fan and I'm a gamer, like I know what I want at my game table, right? And I'm reasonably confident because I see the posts all the time on social media. Everybody posts their wish lists. Oh, I wish Star Trek Adventures had this, or Star Trek Adventures had that. And when are we going to get this? And when are we going to get that? And when's the damn Romulan source book going to come out? Because that's the big one everyone's been bugging us about for years now. It's like, okay, just give me time. Let me get to it somehow, please. There's only so much in the schedule that I can control. So like, again, I got that wish list. I know what I want because I'm a gamer and I'm a Star Trek fan. I'm a Star Trek super fan. And so hopefully we'll have the opportunity. I would love someday to come on a show like this and say, yep, everything on my wish list is checked off. I don't know what to do anymore. I can quit and go home. Good night. But fortunately, Paramount and CBS Studios are constantly creating new Star Trek right now, right? We know that there's at least 3 new things in the works, right? We've heard about the Section 31 Giorgio movie, which is going to be amazing, I'm sure.
You got Starfleet Academy.
You got the Starfleet Academy series. And then if the fans can push hard enough and make Star Trek Legacy happen.
If there's no legacy, we riot.
Yeah, right.
I know. I fully endorse letter writing campaigns. Oh wait, social media campaigns.
Yeah,
they work, right? And Star Trek fans have proven that for decades, right? I think Brian, you mentioned it
several times.
The fans will rise, and like I remember the Trimbles back in the '60s, right? They helped bring Star Trek to the original series to season 3, right? And then
bring back Shaw. That's my and I will do some shameless self-promotion here just because I'm so excited. Is I do bring back Shaw. This is a little Easter egg for y'all in next month's. Let's see, it comes out next month on the 5th of the month. Star Trek Explorer magazine. I brought back Shaw. So
nice. Kudos.
Enjoy that story next month.
I'm sure he was having a nice morning until that.
He's too fascinating of a character. And I was like, I pitched it to Titan Publishing, and I was like, I took 2 of my favorite characters. Jim knows who I'm talking about there. And I said, I can do this. And they said, that's a great pitch. And they accepted it. I didn't even have to rework it, sent it in. And so it'll be in the magazine next month. I'm super excited.
Congratulations, man.
Nice. That's congratulations.
Awesome. Very cool.
But Ryan, thank you. I really appreciate the feedback, and I'll give that to Nathan to tell him how much you appreciate it. But I want to reflect it back on all of you too. Right? Without you guys doing shows like this and keeping the fandom going and keeping the fandom amped up and playing the game, enjoying the game, sharing the game with other people. That's what I'm here for. That's what I live for. And I'm gratified that folks are enjoying the game, they're enjoying what we're trying to do with it, like our intentions behind it and what we're trying to encourage you all to do with it. I'm glad to see it's connecting. And I can't thank you enough for being here along for the ride, because this has been some of the most satisfying creative stuff I've ever done in my long career of stuff. Yeah. And I've got a theater background, I've got a writing background, I've done a lot of creative stuff, and working on Star Trek Adventures and being part of the big Star Trek family is really, really, really humbling and gratifying. Like just the fact that we get to touch so many different people in not just the fandom, but in like the production space too. It's amazing how many people are gracious with their time and are willing to share. And like the Star Trek family just gets bigger. And I'm just really happy to be a little tiny piece of it, right? Like the RPG is small potatoes compared to some of the bigger things that are going on. But I'm just glad that we've got our little wheelhouse going on here.
Well, we appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us back. Really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Always great.
Always a pleasure.